Cars destroyed, smashed, crushed, or even turned into metal mush. Here are terrible parking revenges caught on camera. If there are white lines painted on parking lots, it's to mark the spots and prevent messy parking. But as usual, some fool will inevitably show up with their car and end up parking without following the lines. That's exactly what this poor fool did when he poorly parked his big red SUV at a shopping center parking lot. As you can see, two large SUVs parked so close to his vehicle that he can't even open the door to get in. The drivers of these Jeeps noticed his bad parking and decided to teach him a lesson. Now the poor fool can only get into his car through the back door. It's embarrassing for someone who probably paid at least $50,000 for that car, plus options. This will remind him to park properly next time. In Russia, people really don't like it when others park illegally, especially in a parking lot. So usually everyone respects each other's parking spaces. However, there's always someone who thinks they're clever and ends up paying the price. This young man in yellow pants wanted to leave the parking lot, but one of those foolish people we just mentioned had parked right in front of him, blocking the only way out. Many people would have just waited patiently for the car's owner to come back, even if it took an hour or more. But not this young man. As you can see, he gets so upset that he starts smashing the poorly parked car with a baseball bat. After hitting the side mirror and the driver's window, he releases the handbrake and pushes the car out of the way. You might think he's done with the car and has taught the owner a lesson, but there's more. The young man in yellow pants is really angry, so angry that he calls for a cement truck. Soon, he pours several cubic meters of quick-drying cement inside the unfortunate vehicle. Here are some unbelievable pictures showing what happens when someone parks their car in their neighbor's driveway. The owner of a pretty suburban house finds his driveway blocked by his neighbor's car every day. He has talked to the neighbor, but it's useless because the neighbor is a stubborn fool who always does what he wants. Fed up, the homeowner calls his cousin who owns a scrap metal truck. The cousin quickly arrives, and with the powerful lifting arm of his truck, he picks up the stubborn neighbor's car and dumps it into the truck's bin. Next, they head to the local scrapyard where we can imagine this poor vehicle will meet its end and likely be recycled into construction bars. It's a sad end for the unfortunate little car, but that's the price to pay for parking in someone else's driveway. Here's a video from a construction site in Switzerland. The workers have been on strike for several days because they are unhappy with their pay and working conditions. A journalist is interviewing one of the workers, who is talking about their demands, when something catches his eye. Another striker, who seems to be the angriest of the group, has climbed onto his 70-ton bulldozer and started to crush the boss's fancy Mercedes CLK. The luxury German sedan is pushed back a few meters before the bulldozer driver forcefully stops it with his backhoe. The poor car is flattened like a pancake, teaching the boss a lesson about underpaying his employees while driving an expensive car. Here are some shocking images from the United Kingdom, specifically from Durham County in northeast England. A farmer there is really fed up with tourists coming and shamelessly parking on the track leading to his property. Usually, he goes out and talks to the driver to try to reason with them, but this time he completely lost his temper. He immediately jumped into his forklift and charged at the tourist's car right in front of the stunned tourist. Using the forklift's telescopic arm, the farmer literally lifted the poor car and threw it across the road, off his private property. The tourist tried in vain to stop the farmer by kicking the forklift, but the only thing he managed to do was hurt his foot. Moreover, when the farmer suddenly turned his forklift, he ended up hitting the tourist, throwing him violently to the ground. Don't worry, he was unharmed with just a few bruises, but the same can't be said for his car. Some people will do anything for a parking spot, absolutely anything. In this unbelievable video, you can see a man who has literally laid down on the ground in a parking space. This old fool is determined to save this spot at all costs and is even willing to risk his life for it. The driver of the Toyota Corolla is backing up and almost runs over him. The old man starts yelling, and that's when the Toyota driver decides to give up the spot to this crazy old man. He realizes he's dealing with a stubborn fool who won't give up the parking space even if it costs him his life. He'd rather go look elsewhere to park his car than risk a lifetime in jail for killing a grumpy old man who doesn't even have 3 brain cells. Nothing is more thrilling and spectacular than cars getting crushed by a big construction machine. And that's exactly what happens in this shocking video, where you can see a huge excavator clearing out cars in an unauthorized parking lot. Actually, it's more about cars that were unfortunately parked in the wrong place at the wrong time, because the factory workers are on strike, and, honestly, they are really upset with the company's executives. One of them then hops on his machine and does a bit of landscaping with their cars. Now let's move on to a scene that shows human stupidity really has no limits. This brainless person parked their fancy Mercedes SUV right next to the tram tracks, just inches away from the rails. They probably thought there was enough space for the tram to pass without hitting it. But as you can see, their calculations were far off because they forgot that the tram's width isn't the same as the rails. When the tram came by, it ended up crushing the beautiful car, leading to a very expensive bill at the body shop. And now we continue with this incredibly funny incident that was recorded in the parking lot of a small supermarket. In the video, you can see a Mercedes leaving a spot in the crowded parking lot, much to the delight of the driver of this yellow SUV. But just as he's about to park his Jeep in the newly freed spot, an old BMW quickly sneaks in and shamelessly steals the spot. The BMW driver doesn't even apologize. Worse, he taunts the other driver as he gets out of his car. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't know that the owner of the yellow Jeep holds grudges, extremely long grudges. As soon as the rude driver leaves, the Jeep driver uses a winch to tow the BMW away, slowly and unhurriedly, pulling the sedan to free up the poorly gained parking space. Then, enjoying his victory, the SUV parks calmly in the spot he truly deserved. In this really funny video, a young YouTuber decided to prank people who don't park properly within the lines in parking lots. This young guy is known for playing pranks, sometimes mean ones, on people he thinks deserve it, like the driver of this badly parked car who is blocking other parking spots. The YouTuber then takes a pair of handcuffs and attaches an empty shopping cart to the car's door handle. When the car's owner comes back, he is completely baffled. He has no idea what to do next. But then the YouTuber approaches him and offers to solve the problem. Pretending to be a magician, he easily unlocks the handcuffs, which delights the driver immensely. The driver even gives him a $20 bill to say thank you. But then the prankster shows him the handcuff keys, making him realize he's been completely fooled. But wait, it's not over yet, because here comes another crazy clip, this time from Brazil. It seems that in the land of soccer and samba, people have little tolerance for those who misuse parking spaces. The owner of this small car parked in a spot reserved for disabled people. But the problem is, he isn't disabled. He shamelessly and without any guilt took the space of someone who is, by nature, disadvantaged. But this thoughtless person is about to get the shock of his life when he sees what has happened to his car after a group of alert citizens took action. These good people carefully stuck thousands of blue and white sticky notes all over his vehicle, covering it almost entirely from the tires to the roof. The result, formed by these sticky notes, is quite clear. It looks just like a sign for a handicapped parking spot. This way, no one can be mistaken, especially not the car's owner who, as you can see, is clearly not happy to be the center of attention. Fuming and complaining, he tries to leave, but with reminders stuck on his windshield, you can be sure he won't get far. In these funny pictures, you can see an impressive display of strength. Olympic weightlifters are literally lifting cars with their arms and flipping them to the side of the road. Actually, these strong guys are part of the Olympic weightlifting team, and they were on their way to training. When they got to this road, they found it blocked by people who had parked their cars badly. So, to not be late for their training session, they simply decided to take matters into their own hands and moved the cars themselves to clear the way. Here's another video showing a car blocking a driveway because some careless people never learn. This footage is from California, where a local resident had enough. Tired of seeing his driveway blocked, he decided to take action. He brought over a big tree stump that must weigh at least 20 kilograms and placed it right next to the wrongly parked car. Now, the car owner will have to physically move the stump if they want to get out of this mess. It's not very smart to block your neighbor's driveway with your car, especially since your neighbor is a very strong guy who's on the national rugby team. Anyway, you get the point, but they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, So here's this hilarious scene that really needs no explanation. A big, strong man finds his car blocked by his neighbors. So, since he's incredibly strong, he didn't call a tow truck, because he is the tow truck. Watch how easily he lifts and moves the vehicle, which must weigh about 1.5 tons. And we finish with a little bit of absurd humor, just like the scene that's coming up. The driver of this big SUV is going to make his way in a rough manner. He moves the car that was blocking his way, but because he's really upset, he decides to take it even further. The outcome is definitely not going to please the owner of the white car, but it will teach them to park properly next time.